welcome to the 40k Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40k with your hosts Vik VJ and David Gaylord.
Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering the top three things that have changed in the new T-Suns Codex. I've had a chance to play 4 or 5 games, not as much as I'd like, but I'm playing another one tomorrow in real life. But I've been really enjoying it. It's been really interesting trying a new codex and seeing where it's developing and what kind of some of the early signals are and stuff like that as well. I've been talking with a few people in the community as well and getting their thoughts. Of course, we've got Vik, and we've got a big T-Suns community in our Discord as well, actually, that's been experimenting with a lot of changes and a lot of builds. Just a quick reminder, I'm going to be having the Thousand Suns pre-codex masterclass, all detachment builds pre-done, tournament ready, complete overview, and a very exciting announcement. I've got Alexandre Sacco coming on from Team France, WTC champion, long-time Thousand Suns player. He's going to be coming on to talk about the vehicle detachment and the Coven detachment. And I've got my good friend Lewis Smith, who's a T-Suns player himself, coming on to cover a detachment and maybe the closing or intro, which I'm going to be recording in person. So there's like 30 hours worth of work plus going on to that masterclass, and it'll be launched 40kfireside.com. Anyway, straight into it. The first big change, Thousand Suns, is obviously the detachment ability. The detachment ability has changed in so many ways. It's difficult to say whether or not it's a side grade or a buff because there's lots of different ways it's changed. For example, the biggest change is that you no longer need to reach some kind of Cabal threshold to execute your game plan, particularly on the early turns. You know, when I was playing T-Suns at WTC, I had a specific build for 19 Cabal on the board. And I knew that if I started with 19 on the board, I could double Temporal Surge and Doom Bolt, or I could, like, say, double Doom Bolt and then use a reroll, or like one of the 2 Cabal rerolls, for example. But having those key breakpoints of interactions was absolutely critical. The flip side of that is that you end up paying so many points to jam-pack your army with Cabal Ritual units. You no longer have to do that. And actually, the points have changed a lot on Thousand Suns to kind of reflect that. So Thousand Suns overall, if you think about it, no longer have to pay for Cabal points. And in addition to that, they get obviously all the spells earlier on, but a lot of their characters got cheaper, which is the big part about it. So you're actually playing with a lot more stuff on the board, particularly stuff that doesn't operate within your Cabal Ritual zone. So my way of explaining it to people is kind of like, New Thousand Suns kind of feels like Chaos Space Marines with like this army rule psychic-ish phase, but it's much more Chaos Space Marine-y than it is Thousand Sun-y, for example. Anyway, let's kick into this. So when I was playing, I was really curious about a couple of these breakpoints, actually. It got me thinking, maybe I should run some simulations to figure out what the key breakpoints are here. So before I go into that, let's cover off the actual spells themselves that have changed. Now, before, we didn't have Destiny Ruin. So Destiny's Ruin is, I think, one of the better / best ones. I definitely think it's the second best behind Temporal Surge. But basically, because it's low casting value and big impact, it gives you full rerolls to hit if you cast on a 10 plus on a particular unit, which actually opens up so many Thousand Suns units to actually be good again. Now, and this has replaced the reroll mechanic, which was very good before, just 2 Cabal points, reroll failed save. And then also, in addition, we've gotten rid of, why can I not remember? The CP discount, which was huge. The CP discount Cabal Ritual, I think people are definitely feeling it now, because one of the biggest breakpoints about Thousand Suns, I think now, is that the CP economy is heavily taxed. You have almost 0 good ways to generate additional CP in the army outside of the Demon Detachment, and the Demon Detachment's pretty garbage, to be honest with you. So basically, you're just operating with 0 CP gain throughout the whole match, which is a big bottleneck. Okay, back onto the spell. So we got a good one with Destiny's Ruin, but the hardest hit spell by a large margin is Temporal Surge. To be fair, this spell and Doom Bolt kind of just broke the way that Warhammer worked. A lot of people always joke, like, you know, Thousand Suns are kind of playing like 41k, because just a straight up move again ability was absolutely absurd. For 5 Cabal points too, it was just absolutely insane. I mean, you could make deterministic plays that you could say, I can definitely move this model 20 inches, or I can move Magnus 28 inches, 100%. Now, that game plan has completely changed. before, where you can make like kind of deterministic plays, followed up by like a Doom Bolt and then Flame of Volume, you now have to have this really bizarre interaction of like, well, if I don't boost it, if I don't roll the 10 plus, then it's kind of like I'm moving like maybe 3 inches. But what if I roll a 1 inch? If I need to roll a 3 plus to get all my guys on the terrain plate to shoot, what if I don't roll that? What if I just straight up miss the cast? So what that does is it really limits the ceiling of what T-Suns can do. It limits the ceiling because, well, you don't move your full movement characteristic now, but it also limits the ceiling because of your effective value, as I think Mike P from Warhammer would call it. Your effective value risk threshold is actually significantly changed. It goes from something that's deterministic to something that, well, I could fail, and if I do fail, I'll need to recast it. But if I do cast it and I don't roll the movement value I need, what is the impact of that XYZ, right? Does that mean that 5 guys can't shoot, 3 guys can't shoot? There's it's a gradient curve now, whereas opposed to just being a binary decision of I can temporal surge, I will be in range. So it completely changed. Doombolt is basically, for the most part, it feels like the damage is more or less halved. I mean, Doombolt used to do minimum 4, but now it does minimum 1. And believe it or not, that's a huge breakpoint as well. If you're going up against a Vindicator, for example, you used to be like, well, I can put 8 damage minimum on it. So, that's a way of dealing with high toughness. I actually think Thousand Suns have a big problem with high toughness skews right now. And the lack of Doombolt being able to cast it twice outside of Coven, but in addition, it doing a lot less damage is a huge reason for that. Then we've got Twist of Fate, which is largely the same, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the one you're probably going to cast, as a 4th spell to most of these. Actually, probably as a 3rd spell, because Doombolt might be casting last as well. Okay, so I was doing a lot of thinking about this casting mechanic, and I got really curious about, what exactly are the percentages? So if you probably don't know me, but I've been in software engineering for a long time, so I thought, you know what? Why don't I build some simulations? So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second. You're going to see my big face, and just load up a little bit of simple Python code to run some simulations. Because I was curious, what I wanted to know was how often would I fail a cast? And if I failed it, how often would I then be able to succeed it if I added a 3? And if I failed it, what is my chance of just boosting it on 3d6 naturally? So there's a couple of really counterintuitive things which you might not think about when you're playing Thousand Suns. But it took me a while to realize, it took me a couple of games to realize that if you fail a cast, you can keep recasting it. So there's this really fascinating breakpoint that happens when you want temporal, and temporal surge is the best example of this. So let's jump into temporal surge here. What this is going to do is it's going to run 10,000 trials to hopefully become somewhat statistically significant. It's saying we need a 6 to base cast and a 10 to boost. Okay, there we go. And so let's kick this off. Cool. And what you'll see is that it produces these 2 plots here. Now, what this is saying is the first cast to succeed is just mathematically. I mean, obviously this is all mathematics, but I couldn't be bothered doing the math. I'd just rather build a simulation. We got a 72% chance to cast on a 6+. Okay, great. So whenever you cast it with 2d6, you got a 72% chance. The chance you naturally roll a 10+, 16.6%. And when you're rolling 2 dice, the chances that you roll double or triple is always 16.6%. That doesn't matter though, because you're not channeling. So now, what is interesting now is that when you cast on 3d6 and you fail, what is the chance that you get the bonus cast? This is really critical. For example, let's say you roll a 4, for example, and you're like, damn, I really need this temporal surge. If you then throw the bonus cast, you've got an 82% chance of succeeding naturally. Or sorry, if you then channel after a failed cast, you've got an 82% chance to successfully cast, but only a 17% chance to bonus cast. So you're rolling trying to roll a 6, obviously, right? So you roll a 4 combination, you roll a 5 combination. You're basically trying to roll a 4 or a 6. So that's really fascinating when you think about, well, I really need the 6. I need the flat 6 move. Is it better for me to fail and then try and recast? So when we recast with just hard 3d6, we've got a chance of 62.4% chance to cast at a 10+. That's great. And then overall, whenever we cast a double or triple with 3d6, we're rolling it about 45% chance to take mortal wounds. If you're running the solo characters, the mortal wounds are pretty relevant, to be honest with you. So what we can do is we can adjust this and go, okay, what if we have a Mulith Vortex Beast next to us? That means that we've got a bonus one to cast. Okay. Let's see how this changes things. And you guys will come to realize, like, the bonus casting, as I have kind of begun to understand it, is such a huge way of understanding this army. Temporal Surge is just the best example of this, of course. So if we have bonus cast, 74% chance to succeed. Whereas if we then fail and then try and throw another dice in, only a 34% chance to actually to bonus cast. So you're actually way better off, in my opinion. And depending on the circumstances, you're actually usually better off to fail and then try and recast with a hard d6 but with basically a 3/4% chance to succeed after that. Because then you're going to be succeeding at a 95% rate afterwards. So I think Temporal Surge is like a really fascinating example of that. Where this gets even more fascinating is that if you say you need a 3 to get X amount of damage, or a 4 to get X amount of damage, or a 5 to get X amount of damage, it completely changes on whether or not you do the bonus recast again, right? Because if you just need a 2+, you might be fine with not doing the recast, right? Or you might not be fine with doing a recast, depending on how much of an impact it's going to have, right? Like, you might just roll a 1, and there's nothing you can do about that. So I find that really fascinating. So that's the stats for Temporal Surge. I've got Doombolt here on a 7. This is without a Mulith Beast. A Doombolt on a 7, you've got a 50% chance on 3d6 to hit an 11, and then you've got a 16% chance when you cast to hit the bonus if you fail it, basically. And if you chance to succeed is 58% to roll a 7+, basically. So yeah, that's stuff I find really interesting. Twist of Fate is obviously the hardest one to cast, and it's saying Twist of Fate is roughly so you can notice, like, basically whenever you chuck 3d6, you always get 44% chance, 45% chance to hit mortal wounds on yourself. 3d6 chances to succeed on a 9, 64.6%, and to bonus is 12 plus required, a 20% chance. So yeah, if you're relying on a Twist of Fate, and let's say you really need a Twist of Fate, obviously it's 1 AP versus 2 AP. Let's just think about what we need here. If we have a Mulith Beast, we've got a 33% chance, so it's still pretty hard to cast Twist of Fate even if you have a Mulith Beast. So I would say, in my opinion, that is the biggest change to Thousand Suns so far. It's every single game you'll notice it. They will have they'll have a much harder time casting, and it'll be a lot less impactful. That being said, you do actually have the ability to cast all 4 spells, regardless of, if you have 4 sorcerers, you can cast 4 spells. So even if on turn 5 you've got like 4 models and they're 4 sorcerers, you can still cast all 4 spells. It's kind of like battle focus. Doesn't feel as impactful in the beginning of the game, feels more impactful than it should be in the late game because you have like such little models. Okay, awesome. On to the second biggest change, in my opinion. This is a cool one. The second biggest change for me has actually been the vehicles. I've been really surprised by these. I think the vehicles are really, really solid. They got a huge glow up in Thousand Suns, mainly because of the 2 Predators. So if we look at the Predator, I think they went down in points as well. I think they went down like 10 or 20 points. They're really cheap now. They're like 130, 140. The Predator Destructor is whenever it targets basically non-monster or vehicle, and if you hit with a Psyker, you can get +1 strength and +1 AP, and it includes a Doombolt ritual. So what you can do here is you can go for a Terminator Sorcerer and Terminator armor. This guy naturally deep strikes. Just trying to find him. The Demon Prince there. Oh yeah, so the Sorcerer and Terminator armor. This guy combos quite nicely with a tank from outflank or just a tank on the board. Because you can deep strike him. You can then shoot his Gaze of Hate, which is anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4+, dev wounds. So like, it's pretty good anyway. And then he actually buffs a shooting unit. So after he shoots a unit with a psychic weapon, he then adds +1 to the hit roll after that. So your Predator comes in, gets +1 AP, +1 strength against infantry units, and then it's +1 to hit on top of that as well. Makes it super consistent and really quite impressive, actually. Then we've got the Annihilator. The Annihilator kind of combos nicely with this, and these guys get way better in the Vehicle Detachment, by the way. The Vehicle Detachment, if you're within range of a Psycho, you get to reroll a hit, damage, and wound roll. So when you've got the Predator Annihilator, for example, he can naturally reroll the hit roll, and you can reroll the damage roll if he gets buffed by a psychic ability, right? So you can imagine you have 3 las cannons that reroll to hit from like long range, and then you reroll one of them naturally because one of them is twin linked, right? And then in addition to that, for the detachment rule, you can reroll another wound roll. So you have like 2 full rerolling las cannons and one that just doesn't reroll to wound, and then you can reroll the damage roll. This guy kind of cranks actually. Been kind of impressed. In the vehicle detachment, you can also make something psychic and then shoot with it, and then psychic attacks made by 1,000 Sun psychic model from your army this phase. Maybe you can't do that actually. There is a stratagem that makes a vehicle's weapon psychic. But I don't think that will let you proc it. I think I might have misplayed that wrong in the game, actually. I'll go check it really quick. T-Sans, 6 inches of Psycho, range weapons in vehicle have the psychic ability and attacks. Yeah, okay, so that's just +1 to wound. So you can't do that. But regardless, it's not terribly hard to set up a Psycho hitting a target, realistically speaking. If you play Magnus too, obviously he's got longer range, so that's even easier. But just put a cheap Psycho like a Disc Guy or a Sorcerator from reserve, or even a Shaman is 55 points, and you can just shoot with his psychic weapon as well. Does need to hit notably as well. Awesome. So I think that's the second change. I mean, the Defiler is good. The Vindicator is good. The Hellbrute wasn't good. The Mauler Fiend I haven't tested, to be honest with you, but I suspect it's probably not good. All of these are really good in the vehicle detachment. And I actually think that, one other thing to mention is the Forge Fiend, actually. The Forge Fiend's a really big winner from this new spell, the one that lets you reroll hits, because imagine the Forge Fiend with Blast shooting 5 Marines. You got basically 9 shots on average, rerolling to hit, and then you're 10 minus 3/3. Like, that's a really nice profile. So actually, Thousand Suns have a lot more consistent output from range than they do actually before, where it was kind of up close and personal, kind of shooting you with indirect and stuff like that as well. Okay, so the vehicles have had a huge glow up. Why don't we go to the third point here? All right. Third point, and you've probably seen it everywhere on the internet. Well, maybe not, but Zangors. I was wrong when I first glanced at the Zangor detachment. I just assumed it was going to be absolute crap. But actually, it's pretty good. I'm playing a game tomorrow with it against Boris, and the Zangor Enlightened with Great Bows are the standout creme de la creme unit here. Just for some context, these guys went down 20 points. They're 80 points for 6 guys with 2 wounds each and a 5-up invuln at toughness 4. So that's 12 wounds at toughness 4, 5-up invuln for 80 points. OC2 each, right? Okay. That's not even the best part. Well, the best part is that they're cheap. But the best part is that their Fake Caster Great Bow actually does quite a lot of damage. It's a 30-inch range gun it's a bow. It's a 30-inch range bow that has 5 effectively minus 3 AP damage 2. So you get 12 shots at 5-3-2 lethal hits. So if you've got the reroll mechanic on them, they can actually deal a serious amount of damage to anything. If you're playing the mutant detachment too, they can get +1 to wound on top of that. So you can hit on 3s rerolling if you have a shaman, and then you wound on 5s without rerolling. So you got a really good chance of dealing a huge chunk of damage. I mean, -3 damage too is pretty good. -3 because it ignores cover. I assume everything has cover basically. Really good for killing Marines, skirmishing. They're fast enough where you can kind of deny some OC. They've got a reactive move. Super solid all around. You will most likely see 18 of these in basically every top-end Thousand Suns list. They are very good, and they're actually so aggressively pointed that they're more often than not your sit back and consistently deal damage unit than anything else. We've also got the Zangor alignment with just the regular weapons. These guys are perfectly fine as well. I mean, they get Lance Precision. In the Mutant Detachment, their ability doesn't really work. But, to be honest with you, a 10-inch moving guy with 3 attacks at 5-1-2, going to be hitting on 3s with the Shaman. The Shaman's actually a lot better in combat as well. Very solid, I think. You could even go for the Chainsword, just 6 attacks at 4-0-1. Okay, it's not terrible. Wounds Aldari's on 3s, 6 attacks. You could have a mixture, depending on what you want to get into as well. They do impact models as well, which is cool. The one thing that kind of sucks with these guys is they don't have deep strike, so something to consider there. The Zangor Shaman's got a little bit of a glow up as well. And then Zangors have not really changed, but obviously the detachment is way better for them. A little trick you can do with these guys is you can deep strike 6 inches, and then you can temporal surge 6 inches. So you can be 0 inches away from your opponent. It can be a little bit of a jail list. I'm actually playing that tomorrow. I think it's really fun, but my list has got a little bit more shooting in the back end as well. Okay, guys, that's the 3 top changes I've experienced in playing Thousand Suns. The biggest one is the casting. The second one is that vehicles have really impressed me. And the third one is that the Zangor shamans, and particularly the Zangor lines, are extra spicy these days. Of course, Mulith Beast is still good. Rubiks and Rhinos are still really good. Flamers are still really good. Not many people playing Bolters. But yeah, there's lots of experimenting to do. And if you're a T-Suns enjoyer, come onto our Discord or check out the masterclass that's going to be dropping later this week, where I've got myself and 2 other faction experts joining me as well. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the 40k Fireside. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, drop us a comment, check out the YouTube members area, and we look forward to seeing you again next time by the Fireside.